What is up, Soul Fam? Welcome to episode 16 of the Inner Alchemy podcast. I'm your host, Sundar Roy. And I received the news over the last week that I am now in the top 3 spiritual podcasts in Madagascar. So welcome, guys, if you're listening to me from Madagascar. Welcome. So yeah, we're going to be talking about some current events. I took a little bit of a break over the last week just to process some emotions. I did a post about it on Instagram talking about processing grief, and sent it out to my email list as well. And thank you so much, guys, to everybody who wrote back to me personally to let me know like how much my words really moved you and how much you resonated with what I was saying and how you were going through the same thing. So I really do feel like, yeah, a lot of people do seem to be taking the time right now to slow down and really feel everything that's been going on. You know, the last couple of years have been so challenging to be on this planet. Like, yes, this is it. Like, this is the great awakening that we've been waiting for. But, you know, as much as I was like, I can't wait for disclosure, I can't wait till everybody wakes up, I can't wait till people realize, you know, how bad things are and how much they need fixing and how much we need to start taking a more active role in fixing them and stop giving away our sovereignty to false leaders who don't have humanity's best interests at heart. I didn't think that the process of that awakening was going to be as painful as it is. I didn't think that we would have to bear witness to a live stream genocide. I naively thought that it would be kind of disclosure of past crimes, not them openly revealing, you know, showing their hand, basically revealing who they are and who runs things, and still having to kind of navigate so many psyops that are continually dividing people and manipulating people. So we're going to talk about some of that in this video, okay? For me, I had to really take time just for basically some personal reasons. Dom just had a sudden death in the family. He just lost his older brother very suddenly to a motorcycle accident. So if you guys would like to send some prayers and some condolences his way, I'm sure he would really appreciate that. It's been pretty brutal on his whole family and for me as well, because yeah, it's really hard seeing, you know, the person that you love the most and their family like going through something so horrific. And yeah, I mean, I only met Steve once, and I'm really glad that I did get to meet him before he passed. And yeah, it's affected me more than I thought that it would. But it's interesting as well because, you know, I've obviously, as I said in the post that I made the other day, that I'd been, I don't want to say masking, but like, it's kind of, you know, when you reach a point of numbness, like obviously I've spoken about this before. I spoke about it several times during the first year that we were witnessing the genocide in Gaza, how, you know, those of us who were following, you know, daily, for me, I was following daily, like everything that was happening. And a lot of us who feel connected to that region or that struggle were watching everything that was happening. We were obsessed. We were praying for them every day. We were trying to do everything that we could to raise awareness and watching every little thing that happened. And it was absolutely horrific. It was such an assault on our nervous system. And I would reach periods of numbness, okay? I would reach periods where I could watch atrocities or war crimes on my screen and not feel anything. And it's because you reach a level of desensitization, and it is basically a trauma response that your body is going through. It's natural, actually, because you need to, instead of just reacting to it, you need to be able to take care of basic survival needs. Like, you need to be able to like go and get food, or like, you know, take care of your immediate needs, take care of your family or whatever. And so you can't be always reacting to everything, your survival instincts will kind of kick in, and your body will suppress the emotion until a later stage at which it's safe to heal and feel it. And I had reached a point after like over a year of witnessing what was happening, where I just couldn't really feel it anymore. Like I could see the images on my screen, and the only emotion that I could touch was like a little anger and like a motivation to take action. So, I was still sharing things and stuff like that, but I wasn't really taking action with the same level that I was before, because I wasn't able to. I had to kind of go back to like promoting my business and my healing work and serving my clients and creating, launching my website and things that had been put on hold. So I just did not have the space to feel and to really grieve everything that I'd just been watching. And not just that, some of you know that I also was processing a breakup, like a very intense betrayal and a breakup as well from my previous relationship. And while I did take a little bit of time, like a couple of months to process that, as soon as it happened, once me and Dom got together, I kind of just stopped feeling it, because I was just like, why do I need to like cry over that arsehole? I found my soulmate now, so who cares? But Dom's always trying to get me to feel stuff to do with the breakup, and just feel, all the stuff, like the world pain, okay? I think the Germans, I saw this in an email that I received. I think a lot of people are feeling this right now, this kind of, what's it called? Okay, the Germans have a word for it, but we don't in English, in the English language. Let me just look this up. Weltschmerz. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I did study German at school, so I can speak ein bisschen Deutsch. So Weltschmerz basically means world pain, and it's like a deep empathy that you'll have for the pain of the world. And I think a lot of us are processing that right now. Because I feel like, for me personally anyway, I've reached a stage where I'm not having to worry about all the immediate survival needs. I've kind of taken care of the immediate things that I needed to take care of in my business, and I can kind of move at a slightly more sustainable pace. It's not so go all the time, for me personally anyway, that I've finally been able to take a couple of days just to feel and to grieve and to just let it all go, okay? Let it all out. Because if you're holding on to that pain and you're suppressing and masking those emotions, it basically starts to create depression. And so because it's exhausting. It's exhausting having to carry so much negativity, so much pain, so much heartbreak, so much cynicism and anger, that your body just starts to become exhausted. And so you just can't, you find you're sleeping more, or maybe you can't sleep, maybe you're having nightmares, and you just feel like your energy is being sapped. Like I felt like I was being siphoned. I felt like I was struggling to even get up. And I know what depression feels like. I had seriously major depression when I was around like 19 to 21, had to drop out of uni, was, seeing psychiatrists and therapists and counselors and all kinds of people to kind of get to the root of the issue. But even back then, it was like, yes, there were traumas that had happened in my own personal life that had caused the depression, but it was also just a deep world pain that I was going through. And it took me quite a long time to release it from the body. So I can feel when that's starting to happen again. And I do have my tools now that I use to try and make sure I don't sink into, like a permanent state. Generally, like a doctor will diagnose that you have clinical depression if you've been feeling that way for like several weeks or more, where you like can't get out of bed, you feel your energy sapped, you're always thinking negatively. So you do need to just take time to get to the feelings underneath the anger, the bitterness, the rage, and look, I'm very much a proponent of sacred rage. Your sacred rage is really powerful, but underneath it is sadness and grief. And underneath your grief is love. So if you want to return to a state of love and you want to eventually ascend, and, you know, merge with God and reach higher states of, you know, reach a higher vibration, you have to let go of the grief and the anger and the resentment and all the painful feelings that you're holding on to. So I know lots of you are going through this process right now, and, you know, I'm happy to hear that. That's not something that you need to go to a therapist or a class or anything, you know, to you just need to hold space for yourself. And, you know, hopefully you're able to give yourself like an hour or two, you know, every few days, just to let it all go, just to cry, okay? And trust me, like, I feel so much better. Obviously, I know for me, it's like actually coming in waves. So it's, you know, now that I've broken this seal, it's like every day I'm crying, like, usually I can't cry. The last year I would sometimes find that I was able to cry, but it wasn't for longer than like 5 minutes at a time. But it's really important to do, because especially if some of it is around sort of interpersonal issues, like, you know, relationship traumas and things like that, if you don't grieve what was done to you in relationships, or maybe even the mistakes that you made in relationships, it can go on and affect your future relationships, or it will go on and affect your future relationships, and you'll be forced to have to feel that emotion again because you didn't feel it the first time. So it's really, really important that we do take the time to do that. Okay, so in this episode, what are we talking about? Okay, I want to talk about some of these psyops that are being waged against humanity right now. Okay, they are really... Evil does not sleep, guys. Like, as we can see, evil does not sleep. Like, as much as I'm saying we should slow down, we should also consider that evil is not taking a break right now. So we need to also not take a break. And when I say don't take a break, I mean, like, you taking a break to feel your emotions and to grieve is part of the work. Okay, so we're really never taking a break. That's how I look at it anyway. Like, you taking time to sleep and restore yourself and heal your body and, you know, just catch up on what your body needs, you know, from having to like punch a clock every day and just survive on this fallen planet, is also part of the work. Okay, it's how you resource yourself. So, you know, don't feel guilty about that. You know, that's part of the work, okay? And that's necessary. Like I said, that's how we access the deeper layers of love underneath all the grief and the pain and anger and hatred and divisiveness and everything that they're trying to push at us right now. They are really trying to push this civil war, this Gog and Magog war, okay? Convince everybody that we are in the end times by manufacturing Abrahamic prophecy, okay? They're basically pulling from Abrahamic eschatology, i.e., you know, prophecies of the end times, to make you think that, yes, we're in the end times, we need to all find Jesus or whatever, we need to all, like, you know, find salvation. And look, being able to lean on God and lean on spirit, whatever your spiritual beliefs are, is super, super important in these times. But I don't know, I'm a bit skeptical when people are pushing like one religion over another, you know. Whatever, for me, I always like to stay sovereign, okay? I'm a seeker first and foremost. So I'm always going to be studying. If they're trying to push, like, you know, during the pandemic, they were talking about Christ is King and all of this stuff. And we had like a big push, like a big New Age to Jesus push. And I think that was actually by design, to get usher everybody into Christian evangelical Christianity and Christian Zionism, so that they could continue to push this end times agenda. So, you know, not that I'm a fan of the New Age either, okay? I always advocate being a truth seeker. If you find salvation in Jesus, that's great. I also love Jesus. I follow the teachings of Jesus. Jesus is one of my main guides, okay? He does entity removals in the field, okay? But I don't agree with the Christian religion. Like, I've read the Bible, so I know that it was created by the Roman Empire. And when you look at the history of the Roman Empire and the Jesuits and how they basically control all the different arms of the deep state and all the different secret societies, I don't know, for me, I'm just not going to be buying into that religion. I do have a lot of love and respect for Christians, though, and there is a lot of stuff that they believe that I agree with. So it is nuanced. But having said that, I cannot. I'm trying not to judge, but it is hard when you see all these Christians thinking that they were going to get raptured last week, and like, you know, giving away their stuff or like preparing for the rapture. I'm just like, guys, I mean, I kind of look on one level, I don't blame people, okay, because what we're going through right now is so challenging that I get that people just are desperate to be saved. And obviously, if you guys have been with me for a long time, you know that I was making content over the last couple of years about the grand solar flash and sharing my thoughts about that. Now, a lot of people in the kind of ET disclosure camp believed that there was going to be this one big explosion from the sun, this grand solar flash, and it was going to send this love wave over everybody, and everybody was going to become awakened and enlightened immediately. But some people, if they couldn't handle it, were going to be taken on to ET ships, where they were going to be helped and healed by these benevolent ETs and then brought back afterwards. And I mean, I didn't believe that, okay? I thought that was just too far out there, even though I do believe in, not necessarily ETs, okay? I believe that, you know, Arcturians, Pleiadians, you know, all these different races that they talk about in that kind of area of the spiritual community. I do believe that those are real entities in the field. I've even seen some of them or spoken to some of them, communicated telepathically with some of them in the field. I do believe that they are spirits or of some kind that exist within the higher dimensions. I don't know if they're extraterrestrial, if they come from other planets or other star systems, but other people seem to believe that they do and have been on, claim to have been on ships with them. I can't really verify that. I do know people who claim that. You know, I've spoken about my my hairdresser, Ed, who has a salon in Highgate. You can book a hair appointment with him and ask him, because he is an ET contact and he can kind of share his experiences with you. But because I haven't directly experienced that, I don't really know. Like, I don't know whether his experience was like a dream or a vision, or whether it actually physically happened. You know, it's hard. You know, when I've been to some of his channelings, and it seems like they all happen in the field. So, you know, I think that they're just spirits, okay? So, you know, people have all kinds of beliefs. I would be very surprised if anyone got raptured, but if rapture is just basically somebody passing away and ascending out of their body and going into the spirit world, and meeting the Christ, or meeting Jesus, yeah, that probably has happened to people. You know, I'm sure people passed away that day, and maybe it did happen for some people. But yeah, if you're still here, then you're in good company. There's many of us that are still here on Earth, having to do the work of trying to heal this broken planet. So yeah, okay. So obviously, they're trying to push a race war right now. Okay, we're obviously seeing that. You know, you've got the far right protests that we've had in the UK with all the flags and people wanting to take back their country. Now, that was a Tommy Robinson organized event. Okay, so Tommy Robinson, if you don't know, he's basically on Hasbara payroll. He basically set up he's one of the co-founders of the English Defence League, which was originally the English and Jewish Defence League. It was basically a spin-off of the Jewish Defence League. So it's a Zionist operation. So this whole thing about, you know, wanting to reclaim their country, it's kind of crazy and rich and ironic, because how is working with Zionists reclaiming the country? Now, I did watch a lot of Vox Pops, people going down to the protest to interview people to see what they had to say, and like, you know, what is the mindset and the thought process behind these people who are attending these rallies. And some of them did seem aware of some of them were waving Israeli flags, obviously, and some of them seemed to understand, you know, that Zionism is actually the cause of a lot of the issues that we're seeing right now. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of people. If you've got a march of like several thousand people, you're obviously going to get diverse opinions within that. Some of them did seem to. I watched some clips where some people seemed to understand that there was a genocide happening in Palestine, but most of them were just very, very racist, white supremacist, white nationalist. So there's a guy called Nico who's going viral at the moment he basically infiltrated the march. He actually went in makeup. He's a black British guy who is a kind of independent journalist, and he went undercover to meet some of these people, and it was brilliant and terrifying, okay, because it's crazy how violently racist a lot of these people are. So I just wanted to show you some of these clips, so let's react to some of these clips.
I went undercover at a march that apparently has no racism.
I think Islam should be banned.
Oh, I agree with that. Now you're talking sense.
Islam should be fucking banned.
Yeah.
They all should fuck off.
Yeah. Say it again. Say it again.
All fuck off.
Who?
All the fucking Muslims.
Yeah. Go again, love. I'm English till I die. I'm English till I die. I know I am. I'm sure I am. I'm English till I die. Oh, tell me, mate. Tell me, what's your favourite immigrant?
Good one.
That's a good one, mate. I like that.
Right one.
Oh yeah, that's the right one.
I'm no racist.
No, neither am I.
Right,
But
there's enough's enough.
why are you here today, mate?
I'm here to take support our fucking country. Stand firm for a woman.
Oh, careful, the blacks are there. The blacks are there. Oh, what are we gonna do? Oh, we're scared. You're not scared? Oh, because I've got to be real with you, but
Right in their place.
do you? So you put them in their place.
Try to.
Black people think differently, but some of them actually are alright.
How many of them? Not many. Really? Who's straight?
Our streets.
Who's straight?
Our streets.
Who's straight?
Our streets.
Oh, it's glorious. It's glorious.
Glorious.
Don't like black side, you know what I mean? Fuck them all, get them out of the country.
Oh, wow, yeah, fair. Oh, I don't. Where's
This
that
is a
come
white
from?
country, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, it is, yeah.
We don't need blacks, we don't need fucking Islam, we don't need fucking
Yes,
Africans.
we don't need the blacks.
Jamaicans, we don't need
So-
no one like that.
What would
That's
you,
the far right thing to do.
what would you do if you saw a black right now?
You know what I've got in my bag?
What would you do?
I've got 3 knives in my bag, I've got a fucking bleed.
And what is it about?
It's fucking taking our country back, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And who are we taking it back from?
The dirty fucking immigrants.
Exactly. We want our flipping country back.
You lot, not too much to fucking us, and we're taking it back.
Yeah, we're taking it back and we'll fight to the death for it.
Sure.
Yeah? Cheers, mate.
What's your name?
My name, Nicholas Daniel Adabaduma Malana, mate.
Shit, that's a big name.
Thank
John.
you, mate. Nice to meet you, John.
Take it easy.
Oh, so your race is confirmed?
Fucking right, I am.
Good.
What did they call me out for?
You're on the right side of history.
Out of all the people that he interviewed, there was only one person that he interviewed that didn't agree with his racism, because obviously he would like pretend to be racist to get them comfortable. And there was only one that was like, no, you can't say that. You can't. What have they done to you? No, don't be racist. Only one out of everyone. And he interviewed quite a few people. So I'll put the link in the description so you can watch it. Obviously, it comes with a strong content warning. If you do find that kind of stuff triggering or upsetting, you know, I know everybody's dealing with a lot right now. But I do think it is important to to be informed, okay? Because this shit is pretty scary. Obviously, we've been watching a live stream genocide in Gaza, and you know, we've been saying that this is what's coming to us if we're not careful, if we don't speak out against it, if we're not prepared. So I'm glad that a lot of people who don't agree with this rhetoric in the UK are starting to take this seriously. I have never seen just more people speaking up loudly and sharing their opinion and sharing their voices and challenging some of these narratives. It's been really wonderful to see, okay? Because I've been, you know, discussing with Dom. I was just like, do you feel like, you know, the awakening is here now? And he was just like, yeah, I think it's kind of like, it's basically like the boulder that we've been pushing up the hill. It's basically built up enough steam now. We can let it go, and it's just going to continue to build and get bigger and bigger. So it is happening, and people are starting to step up. Yeah, I feel like that the Atlas template that so many of us have been carrying is being cleared now. So what, you know, one of the things that I found working on Dom's field, the first time I worked on Dom's field, and he'll be fine with me sharing this, because many of you are probably carrying this template as well. He was basically carrying a faulty template, or it's basically like an implant in his shoulder, okay? And it was basically the Atlas. So the field communicates with me in symbols, so usually I can discern what the template or the implant is doing by how it appears to me in the field. And this was basically Atlas, who was basically carrying the world on his back, you know, carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. And I think for a lot of people, a lot of you will resonate with this. If you're a person who's excuse me, if you're a person who's been awake for a long time, if you're a person who's been awake for a long time, you've probably been carrying this program of feeling like you're carrying the weight of the world on your back, and like it's your job to kind of wake the sheeple up, wake the masses up. But there's so many more of us now, and we're all awake. And we're awake to different levels and to different degrees and to different things, okay? And that doesn't mean that we don't get caught up in Psyops, okay? I've also been caught up in various Psyops and believed things that I later on no longer believed, okay? So all of us can fall victim to it as well, because some of these Psyops can be pretty sophisticated until they're not, okay? Until we reach higher levels of awakening, where we then start to see through it, okay? There were many people who, you know, in the truth and freedom and awakening community, who I thought were like heroes and looked up to, and then, you know, later found out, thanks to Dom actually, 'cause he's got pretty good discernment when it comes to things like that, were basically part of the deep state, okay? Julian Assange is one of them. You know, I've talked in previous videos about some of these characters who, you know, it's hard to hear this because some of them are awesome. Like David Icke, for example. I've always really liked David Icke. I really like what he stands for, like everything that he says. And that's how, you know, they get your trust, you know. It was the same with RFK during the pandemic. A lot of people were like, oh, he's saying the right things and supporting medical freedom and, you know, talking about the dangers of some of these things that they're forcing on us. But they're part of the deep state, guys. I'm not saying all of them, and just because, you know, somebody held a position of power doesn't mean that they necessarily are going to align with power or be doing the bidding of power and be against the people. Or sometimes it can be nuanced, but I think that we need to have more discernment going forward. Let me grab my light. Okay, yeah, so one thing I did want to talk about that I forgot to mention, we're talking about the grand solar flash. So yes, when we were talking about that, I did not believe that we were going to be taken on to ships, okay? But if you revisit some of my earlier videos talking around that, definitely we could see that there was a lot of intense solar activity, okay? Coronal mass ejections and solar winds and things like that. And when you have periods of intense solar activity, they often correspond with very chaotic world events, usually of a very destructive nature. Okay, you'll start to see systems collapsing and crumbling so that new ones can resurrect and emerge. And that's the process that we're going through. Okay, we have been going through it for a while. Obviously there's cycles to this, and yeah, I'll you know, I know that there's different people who study all those different cycles around, you know, growth, and then, you know, a period of like prosperity, and then a period of collapse. And then during that time, you will see control systems become much, much more tyrannical as they start to lose their grip on society, and people start to become more rebellious, and people start to stand up against the system, and you start to see a revolutionary spirit emerge from the times. You'll see governments respond by becoming more tyrannical, and that's the process that we're going through right now. So we just need to ride the waves. Okay, I know it can be really challenging to witness, and yes, I do think it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. Okay, but we have to zoom out and look at the long game. Okay, we're not just here for ourselves, for our human life, we're here for the next generation. Okay, and maybe some people don't want to, like, you know, I get people being like, I don't know if I even want to bring kids into this world with like AI and transhumanism and where digital IDs and the way things are going. It looks really bleak, and I've definitely shared those views as well, and I completely understand where people are coming from, but that's what they want. Like, they want to erase us, they want to wipe us out. Okay, that's their plan, you know, their whole plan. This is a eugenics agenda. Okay, they're trying to replace us with AI and things like that. So yeah, it's really creepy. It's really creepy. I started watching this creator who was making videos on attachment theory, and I thought it was really, I was just like, this guy's really good. Like, the stuff is like really poetic, it's really hitting me, like I'm really feeling what he's saying. And I was just like, his place looks really nice and perfect. I was just like, yeah, he looks like he lives in a really bougie house. I was just like, he must be doing really well. Like, let me see, like, what his services are. Does he do coaching? Does he sell programs? And I looked, and it just said, oh, this is not to replace psychiatric advice, seek a therapist, da da da. And I was just like, how are they monetizing this channel? And then I went and saw that there was an AI disclosure, that the video was created using AI. The dude was AI. The thing was completely AI generated. So creepy. And I didn't spot it. I thought it was a real person. I mean, yes, I wasn't like watching like everything that he's doing and like observing him really closely. I started like counting the fingers on his hands, just for the record, guys, I'm real. Started counting the fingers, but then I started to notice the way that he was moving was very like robotic. I'll actually put a link in the description so you can take a look, because it was creepy. It was so creepy, honestly. Yeah, so look, guys, obviously I have actually pretty nuanced views about AI now. Like a year or two ago, I was talking about how it's the Antichrist and it's portaling the Antichrist, and I don't disagree with that opinion. Okay, I do think that it basically can portal demonic dark forces, but so can human beings. Okay, I literally remove entities of people. Okay, if you've got auric tears in your field, due to suppressed emotions and things that you haven't healed, entities can get in and you basically have influence over you and use you as a dark portal. Okay, that's why we're seeing so much, you know, violence and things like that, and hatred and division on this planet, because a lot of people have tears and fragments in their auric field, and they're being siphoned and they're being influenced by dark forces. Okay, so, and that this can happen to us as well. Okay, so don't, like, you know, people like to shame people for being like hijacked or like having entities and things like that. It's just, guys, it's just what happens when somebody's carrying a lot of unhealed trauma. Okay, so let's try and have grace for each other, okay? Because if somebody is being influenced by entities, there's usually a lot of unhealed stuff that they haven't had the tools or the resources to be able to process. So let's just, be supportive of each other and guide each other to the right tools that we can use to so that we can heal this stuff. Yeah, okay, coming back to the far right protests, what else did I want to say about that? Yeah, partly it's, okay, they want to obviously kind of create civil war and race wars and cause division, okay, between... Basically, people were waking up. They were getting organized. They were coming together. There were all these groups forming in the wake of the pandemic. There were all these sovereign citizen movements, okay, these common law movements that were basically returning to the land and indigenous identity, the Magna Carta, and all that kind of stuff. And they started seeding these groups, okay, with these basically far-right conspiracy theories that, you're being taken over by all these darkies and Islam is coming to take over. And, you're going to be... Firstly, the UK has already been infiltrated by the Middle East, okay? Christianity is not a British religion. I know that there was some connection with Magdalene and Joseph of Arimathea and the British Isles, but the religion started in the Middle East. It started in the Levant and in Egypt, which is North Africa, and worked its way here. Okay, so that Middle Eastern invasion, that Arab invasion has already happened. Maths, astrology, astronomy, the Arabic... Arabic numerology, okay, the Arabic number system, we already have that, okay, so that's already happened. If we're talking about indigenous British culture, it's not Christianity. Okay, the original religions of these isles were pagan, nature, mother worshipping religions, okay, like Druidism and various other spiritual practices that the original people of these lands followed, and many of them have been completely wiped out now. The original people of this land were also not white. The original people of this land and of most of Europe were black. They were black with light eyes, I'll give you that. But let's pop up Cheddar Man right here, okay? If you go to Wales, you will still see some of the indigenous people of the British Isles, and they are brown, okay? They're not white. White people, the white race, there's no such thing as the white race, just like there's no such thing as the brown race, okay? There's brown people, there's white people, there's melanated people, black people. There's various shades of melanation, okay? The genetic, variants that caused slightly lighter skin and lighter eyes and lighter hair variations evolved over several thousands of years and they first started to be seen about 5,000 to 8,000 years ago, and they started to emerge in Central Asia and the Levantine region and Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey, Kazakhstan, the northern areas of Afghanistan, where you still see white people today. Okay, we have white people in North Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, and they're originally from that area. That's where they come from. It's not European people that migrated there. That was where those alleles first started to develop, and then migrated towards Europe, and then through selective breeding you have the very light skin variations that you now see in European populations. Okay, they weren't indigenous to that area. So Europe has always had migrations of people. The admixture that makes up the UK is a mixture of Anglo-Saxon, Viking, Norman, Flemish, which is Dutch, Roman, Jewish, and Jamaican, South Asian. Like, we've always had migration Okay, like I know some of you guys know this. Okay, I know I don't mean to go over the basics for some of you that already know this, but it does bear repeating. If some of you didn't know this, feel free to repeat it to your racist uncle or your racist cousin or whoever is believing some of this stuff. Okay, even our national dishes. Okay, the national dish in the UK is chicken tikka masala that came from Bengali immigrants. Okay, another national dish, fish and chips, came from Jewish traders, okay, who came from, you know, obviously you've got Ashkenazi Jews who come from Central Asia, then Sephardic Jews who come from the Mediterranean. Some Jews did come from the Levantine area. Yeah. So Britain's culture has always been multicultural, and it's never been fixed or static. It's always been evolving with all the different people that came up and made what the UK is. So if you want it to stay fixed, then like that's you're going to be disappointed. Now I get why some of these people are getting upset. Okay, I actually do understand. Okay, I don't condone their racism and their genetic hatred of people who have darker skin. It's completely intolerable and abhorrent to me. But I do understand where the fear and the anxiety is coming from, okay? Because I've traveled a lot in my time, okay? Those of you who've been with me for many years know I've literally lived all over the world. I've traveled to India, Pakistan, Indonesia. I've lived in Bali for a while. Recently was living in Mexico. I've lived in Cambodia. I've been to Vietnam. I've had a wonderful life. You know, I've worked as an international model while I was doing all those amazing travels. And just, you know, living out of a suitcase like some kind of, you know, traveling nomad. It was wonderful. I've had a wonderful time. And for anybody who's thinking about doing the same, I highly encourage you to do it. You don't need as much money as you think that you do to live that type of life. I was able to do it pretty cheaply. Obviously, with the cost of living is going up everywhere. So you probably wouldn't be able to do it for the same amount that I did it. But there's so many more opportunities for working online and making money online now than there were in that time. So even if you're not able to work as an international model like I was, it's still, you know, I do encourage people to do it. Okay. Obviously with the digital IDs that are coming in now and the way that they're trying to, they want to replace passports with biometrics. Okay. They want your smartphone, which contains all your biometrics, your fingerprints, your, you know, your iris, even your social media history as your passport, which is terrifying. Okay, that's what they're planning now with the Great Reset and this whole digital takeover. That's what they're planning. Okay, and I don't know what the solution is. I do think that people need to get organized. I think people getting researched and up on their common law. If you're in the UK studying common law, the Magna Carta, all of that stuff is going to help you be resourced. I know that in the US there are similar sovereign citizen movements that are happening. Both me and Dom have been taking some time to research those things. It's obviously a very huge body of work and it's very technical, and it obviously has a lot of, you need to have a deeper understanding of some of the spiritual concepts that underpin it. Okay, I have spoken to people who seem to think it's all nonsense and think it's all rubbish and it doesn't stand up in court and it won't stand up in a court of law. These people don't understand that this is not just it's not just a legal body of work, okay? It's a spiritual body of work, okay, as well as being legal and lawful, okay, because it's based on divine law, natural law, God's law, okay? When you understand that and have inner gnosis of that and understand the deeper layers of it, you can use it more effectively, okay? Because being able to navigate the legal system, you have to be able to understand the truth that you are, you're a person of the soil, okay? We don't even know where we came from. That's the thing, okay? Like when I say, you know, understanding our history, okay? Like there's no such thing as the brown race, okay? We're all just different bloodlines, okay? That emerged from the same like a smaller group of families. Okay, so the idea of nation states were never just land masses. Okay, modern day colonialism, which has basically colonized the whole world by these group of 13 elite bloodline families, has got you convinced that nations are land masses. Nations never used to be land masses. Nations used to be bloodlines, okay? Ancestry. And the association that they had with, the relationship that they had with land masses were where those bloodlines settled, okay? And they weren't fixed. They didn't have fixed borders. It just happened to be like, you know, if me and my soulmate decide to have family and they grow up and they build a house over there, and we're living on the edge of where our bloodline, our lineage lives, it's now there. Okay. And obviously nations mix with nations, because if you're trying to keep your bloodline pure and your race pure and just only mix with others in your nation, you're basically just keeping it in the family. Like that's really incesty, guys. Like I'm not saying that your soulmate would never be from the same ethnic group or the same bloodline. It could be, because obviously we've moved so far from the original ancestors that created those bloodlines, and the bloodlines are now so intermixed. Like a Punjabi is not a pure bloodline, it's a mix of other bloodlines. That could be the case, but it's obviously a good idea to keep the gene pool a little bit wider. So, you know, my soulmate is not from exactly the same bloodline as me. He's a mix of Italian, mostly Italian, a little bit German and a little bit English. I'm mostly Punjabi, but I have also some Afghani, some Uzbek, a little bit Western European as well, like Welsh, Irish, Scottish, Danish through my maternal grandmother. But I'm mostly South Asian. And he's mostly Italian, but with a little bit of Western European as well. But it's interesting because we do have some shared ancestry, okay? Because obviously we both have a little bit of Scottish, we both have a little bit of Irish. He has, obviously with Italian, when you study the migration patterns of Italy, check out Ancestral Brew, guys, okay? Because if you're looking at bloodlines and history and where we come from and race and you know, all of this stuff, that I've been researching for the last 2 years, because I was researching the 12 tribes and looking at the human family tree and the bloodlines of Abraham and Noah, which is a fascinating area of study. We will cover it in the 12 tribes webinar, which I will probably launch next year, okay? Right now I want to focus on rebuilding my audience after I got deplatformed, and then once I've done that, we can do it. But if you guys want me to, if you're interested in that, if I get enough interest, I can bring it forward. So let me know if you're really, really keen to do that to study that topic. Yeah, look up Ancestral Brew's YouTube channel, okay? His YouTube channel is so sick. He literally goes into all these different ethnic groups and studies their admixture and the different human migration patterns that formed the admixture of that people. And it's so fascinating, okay? He's gone into like, who are the Palestinians? Who are the Punjabis? Who are the Pashtuns? Who are the Italians? It's fascinating. I don't agree with everything that he says, though. You know, some of the stuff, you know, has been contested, and some of it is even controversial. But yeah, so with Italians had a lot of migration from North Africa, especially South Italian, Sicilian, which is where Dom and his family is from. The Sicilians basically had admixture from groups that migrated from the Levant region and North Africa. And then I've also traced some of my ancestry back to the tribe of Levi, actually. And also Asher, so, you know, Levantine as well. So that might also explain why we both love Palestine so much. But I know that there's a lot of other people who love Palestine and feel connected to that struggle, so who might not have the ancestry. And it is, you know, a lot of people feel connected to that struggle because it's just humanity. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not about these people, those people. We're all just people, guys. Okay, so yeah, Charlie Kirk. Okay, obviously this is super sus. The whole thing's super sus. I know some people got very upset with my whole reaction to the whole thing. And I did ask those people to leave because I didn't really like this person. There were a lot of things that he said which I thought were absolutely disgusting. He's racist. He was racist. He was a white supremacist, a white nationalist, and that was his agenda. That's their agenda with Turning Point USA. Erica Kirk, literally in her name, she's got KKK in her name. Yeah, lots of people have been uncovering her Romanian orphanage connections and connections to child trafficking rings. So let's react to some of that. Oh yeah, before I do that, I did forget to say something when I was talking about I do understand where some of these working class white people who are worried about cultural erasure are coming from, because I did see how when I was traveling to a lot of these places, how Westerners would and Europeans in general would go to these countries and set up these little expat communities, or like, I guess, you know, what you'd call it here, like little immigrant communities. They're immigrants basically. Expat is obviously a problematic term, but they would set up these little digital nomad hotspots for their people. It wasn't about integrating with the locals. If they would integrate with the locals or like try and learn, you know, about the locals' culture, it was only so that they could learn about their culture to sell it, repackage it and sell it to other people. You know, they would come and learn about the spirituality, and you know, this is a massive issue in the wellness space, that Westerners will go to like India, Bali and places like that, in, you know, parts of Mesoamerica, learn about the spiritual traditions, and then go and sell these really high priced, high ticket you know, packages to people, strip it of all cultural context, and then completely forget about where they learnt it and not connect to the culture at all. I mean, while we had a live stream genocide, you know, I saw all these like feminine energy teachers literally traveling to Egypt and talking about the ancient Egyptians and wasn't it so cosmic and beautiful and they're so spiritually rich, while completely ignoring that there's a genocide happening a few, you know, 100 miles away. And I thought it was sick. I thought it was really, really sick, and it really made me angry and upset. Okay, I'm going to be really frank about that, and I find these people to be fake. So yeah, I can totally get why people are like, these people are coming over to our country and they're not learning about our culture, they're not integrating with our culture, and we're feeling erased. I do get that. But yeah, culture's not a static, and you know, it's not symmetrical, okay? Because you're not getting people who are coming from more privileged countries to leverage that privilege over the locals, okay? I know a lot of these people, you know, that they interviewed come from quite working class backgrounds, but a lot of the people that are coming from countries whose economies have been destroyed, or there's been like regime change or genocide. Like a lot of the people who are coming from, you know, places like Venezuela, or they're coming from Congo, or they're coming from Sudan, or they're coming from the Middle East, which has been completely destroyed and decimated by the Zionist entity. So if people are concerned about that, they should join the fight for collective liberation so that these people's homelands aren't destroyed, okay? And it's not just racist white people, okay? I also saw it when I was in Mexico, okay? There were a lot of people coming from Venezuela and from various African nations as well. And they weren't all fighting age men. They were families, okay? I remember walking down the street one time, and one of these hotels had suddenly kicked out all these migrants that were being housed there. And they were literally on the street with sleeping bags. Some of them had mattresses. They had their whole belongings with them, and they had just been turfed out onto the street, and they were just camping out. They were families, they were children, and they literally had to just go camp out in the park next to our apartment. And there were so many. This was in Mexico City. When I had to go to Guatemala City to get my to do finish my residency, I was planning to actually take a bus. I ended up flying in the end, but I was going to take a bus, and you had to go through, I think it's a town called, I forget the name, I think maybe Tepito, or that actually might be a neighborhood in Mexico that you're not supposed to go to. I'll try and remember the name of the border town and put it here. There were a lot of migrants that were basically coming up through Guatemala and who were finding themselves in this border town in Mexico. And the Mexican government just did not have the resources to take care of these people, and these people were coming destitute, okay, because many of them were coming from like Venezuela, whose economy has been completely destroyed by US intervention. Okay, it all goes back to the main arms of the deep state that are mucking with all these countries and then causing the migrant crisis to begin with, because they want to stoke these racial divisions and they want us to just all unalive each other, basically, is what they're doing. And also as a push for these digital IDs, and because they want you to all be begging. Okay, they need to be bringing, if they're going to bring in digital IDs and things like that and track and trace and everything, they need you to ask for it. They need your consent. So all of these protests that people are going to, where they're complaining about illegal immigration, they're bringing in these new digital ways of tracking and tracing and monitoring who everybody is. They're going to be monitoring all your social media activity. So well done, idiots, okay, because this is what you're pushing. But yeah, there was also a lot of anti-migrant sentiment coming from Mexicans towards some of these people, okay? There was a lot of them were being looked after by this one lady who was a nun, okay? She was a nun, and she had basically control of this convent and had some church grounds that she was able to house people, and she was just basically receiving donations from the local just the local residents to try and help get these people on their feet and integrated and supported, whether they wanted to integrate into Mexican society or whether they wanted to continue and go to the US. So the migrant crisis is basically being caused by these global superpowers who are destabilizing these countries, okay? And these people were coming completely, it was heartbreaking to see like Venezuelan refugees basically, just walking around absolutely desperate with signs saying, I'm a refugee from Venezuela, please give me money to buy food or give me a job. And yeah, it broke my heart. And for the people that are literally like, Danny Price just posted something today where he was looking at the contrast with how when they had the war in Syria and they had the little boy that was washed up on the beach who had basically fallen out of a dinghy, and it literally like shook everybody was like so heartbroken by it. And now just the other day a little migrant boy was found washed up dead on a beach in France after he fell out of a dinghy. I think the dinghy maybe collapsed or something, and people just, a lot of people drowned, and people were laughing. British people were laughing. Somebody counted that there were over 1,000 laughing emojis. This is how psychotically evil and genocidally racist people in the UK have become, and in the US as well. Okay, it's really. I'm concerned, okay? And I've been concerned for a long time. Anyway, let's go back to the Klan rally. Erica Kirk and her child trafficking connections, okay?
Hey, what's up? I did a deep dive last night into Erica Kirk, or Erica Francie's Romanian Angels organization, which was an organization that was linked with the US military and accused of trafficking underage girls in Romania. Now, since this issue started going viral, pop-ups like this, which I have never seen before in my entire life, have started showing up on Google. So utilizing Google to try and find this information is probably not going to deem fruitful. The main sources we're going to use today, and I will post the articles right here, are G4 Media, Active News, and, I'm going to try and pronounce this, Stripent Ruviata, which are all Romanian news organizations, as well as a video posted to the video sharing site Vimeo, Vimeo, that features Erica Kirk talking about this organization directly. Now, that Vimeo video is about 3 minutes long. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to play it, but I do encourage you to go look it up while it is still available, because it's posted on her personal Vimeo page at Erica France V. It's titled Romanian Angels. So just to go over timelines here, in 2012, Erica Kirk, then Erica France V, competed in the 2012 Miss USA pageant as Miss Arizona, started working for Donald Trump, and then immediately after that went to Romania and posted this following video on her Vimeo page 12 years ago. Okay, so this video was posted 12 years ago on her personal page, and most of the video is just clips of her giving gifts to orphans. However, I want to pay attention to this thank you message at the end that thanks Colonel Busher, because his name is going to come up again. Essentially, Romanian Angels was an organization that connected Romanian orphans to members of the U.S. military, and under the guise of giving them gifts. The person and the organization that she thanks at the end of that video, Colonel Busher and Associate United Hands Romania, have proven ties to child trafficking at multiple different points of their time in Romania. According to ctnews.ro, Associate United Hands Romania had close ties with the U.S. military at the Black Sea Rotational Force 17.1 and at the Mihal Kogalsanu military base. Now, forgive me for these pronunciations, I don't speak Romanian. In this article from January of 2020 from activenews.ro, I translated it, so let me just read it to you. It says, a former translator from the American base in Kogalsanu accuses a real brothel operated here, where minors were brought in. The woman filed a criminal complaint with DICOT, D-I-I-C-O-T, requesting that the Kogalsanu file be connected to the Carousel Develsalu file. DICOT is the branch of the Romanian government that investigates organized crime. Now, for background, the Carousel Develsalu file was a criminal case in which a 18-year-old girl and a 15-year-old girl, Louisa and Alexandra, respectively, disappeared under alarming circumstances, shockingly close to a U.S. military base in Romania. And when they caught the person that they accused of kidnapping both girls, the locals had said that that man had close ties with the U.S. military base in Romania. Now, backing it up to Colonel Busher of the U.S. Army, Erica's bestie, okay? I'm going to go back to that article from January 2020. The Carousel case in the summer of 2019 brought the Develsalu base to the forefront. That's the military base, with voices linking the disappearances of the two girls to human trafficking networks and the military unit hosting American troops. The translator cited at the beginning of this article is named Anna Maria Nusanu, who claims that a real brothel operated in this military unit and on this military base, where underage girls were brought here to satisfy the desires of some soldiers. Nusanu notified the prosecutor's office about this brothel on the premises of the military base, and although there was an extensive investigation carried out by the American and Romanian authorities, an agreement signed in 2001 between the two countries was invoked. In that agreement, Romania ceded the right of investigation to the U.S. military. Anytime there were crimes committed on a U.S. military base in Romania, those crimes could not be investigated by Romanian authorities. They were then investigated internally by the U.S. military. The article then says, among those who would have benefited from the services of the young girls brought to the Kogalsanu base would have been the commander of the Black Sea Area Support Team, Colonel Otto Busher, helped by his right-hand senior adjunct platoon leader, Lloyd Sparks. So, the very person that Erica was thanking at the end of that Vimeo video that I showed you is then implemented in child sex trafficking crimes. The article goes on to say, the document contains absolutely incredible information and details, which the author of the complaint, Anna Maria Nusanu, argues with concrete evidence in which under normal conditions would have led to convictions and long prison terms. However, since we are talking about military interests, the U.S. and NATO, these are forces that always try to put these matters on the back burner whenever such scandals explode in the public space, the journalist writes. The case was effectively buried when the Americans invoked this agreement that they had with Romania that essentially prohibits Romanian authorities from investigating these crimes and hands over all investigative authority to the United States military. Here is another article from activenews.ro that provides further proof that Colonel Otto Buscher, the person that Erica thanked for helping her with the orphans, was directly involved in these trafficking crimes. In that article, there are translations of his messages where he is negotiating prices for underage girls. So at the very least, the person she was running that organization with, the U.S. military officer that was helping her do these things, has at multiple points been implicated in trafficking Romanian minors to U.S. military bases. And at the very least, we deserve some kind of explanation as to why she left Romania, why the organization just stopped operating, and why all of this information regarding that man, her connections to him, and what Romanian Angels did while in Romania, while on that U.S. military base, has been essentially scrubbed from Google. And even if we are to assume that maybe she found out about everything and left, why wouldn't you speak up? Why wouldn't you use the power that you now hold to hold the U.S. military accountable and talk about the horrific experience that you had being associated with child traffickers in Romania? That's weird to me. And why is it that everyone who has some sort of working relationship with President Trump has ties and accusations regarding this topic? This is not a normal thing. I have lived a very colorful life. Never in my life have I landed myself in a situation where there were even accusations, even a rumor of me being affiliated with underage child trafficking. Everything about it is fishy.
Yeah, so that's traveling nurse Lex who did that breakdown. I'm happy to see that has been going kind of viral, and a lot of people have been tagging her and referencing that video. Yeah, so obviously she's taken over Turning Point USA. It's just ironic, isn't it, that, you know, they promote a kind of anti-feminist narrative, but yet his wife acts just like a boss babe. And, you know, even people on the right are starting to question this. Let's pull up. Oh, damn. Yeah, let's just pull up that clip from, obviously I know Nick Fuentes is a very problematic character, but if even people on the right and the far right are starting to question this, let's just see what he says. I'll just clip it in because I can't react to it right now.
Now, Erica Kirk is also getting called out, this time by far-right Nazi Nick Fuentes, who unfortunately may be right, because Erica Kirk, here's how she's been reacting since her husband was assassinated.
We have Sunday specials lined up to the brim because my husband was so intentional about making sure that there was enough content. Always.
Yeah. He made sure we recorded everything.
Everything.
He would not do a speech unless we could get the video and the
100%. So we have speeches that no one's heard of. We have interviews that no one's heard of. We have stuff from Korea and Japan that no one's heard of.
Podcasts.
So, I mean, in the words of my husband, buckle up, because there is a lot of content to be had. And we have so many amazing things down the pipeline that we are working on currently that will
unveil in due time.
I am so excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird to be excited about the Charlie Kirk material you have recorded. It's just strange to me in the way that she's like laughing and smiling. Like, apparently I wasn't the only one. Unfortunately, Nick Fuentes agreed.
It's like, lady, didn't your husband just get his face blown off like 2 seconds ago? And not to be insensitive about it, but everyone's thinking it. No one wants to be the asshole. No one wants to say it. Everyone's thinking it. Everyone was thinking it when she gave the first speech. Everyone was definitely thinking it at the memorial. Nobody wants to say it because it's inappropriate. It's insensitive. I am the troll, right? So I'll be the one to say it. I think it's super inappropriate. I think it's inappropriate. I think it's weird. It's bizarre. Something is off there, and I don't like it. But they're doing the Super Bowl commentators with the headsets on, doing a media table. They're selling merch, registering voters. They got pyrotechnics. Is this WrestleMania or is this a funeral? Like, what are we doing here? And then, the day after the funeral, I'm getting 500 texts and emails. Erica Kirk here. I miss him. Every time I blink, every beat of my heart. Make sure to donate. $5, $15, $25. It's like, okay. Then they're doing a show. Did you see the show today? And so prescient. I said it last night. I said, I'm getting like a fake vibe. Something's off there. And people say, well, everybody grieves differently. Yeah, I don't know how much mileage we can get out of that one anymore. Something's not right there.
I agree. I mean, I don't want to judge someone's grief, but to me, the combination of like, I'm so excited about all the content we have of Charlie, which as we now know, is all very selectively edited. And the combination of that, when she's raising millions of dollars off of the death of her husband, there's something odd. I'm sorry, there's something odd. And there's something like not right in the situation to me. It's very exploitative. And like, I would respect her if she like would have taken time off, or I don't know. I don't need her to be visibly emotional for all of us. I don't need that. But I think the way that she's just kind of pushing through it all is, one, not healthy for her, and two, it feels exploitative to me. Well, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit like.
Yeah, so, they're noticing that it's fishy as well, which is good. I never thought I would, I don't think he said he thinks it's fake. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's staged. And, if you've been following my stories, you'll see all the different things that I shared around why I think it's staged. And let's see if I can pull some of those up right now.
I want to show you what I found as far as how did this happen to Charlie?
2 bullets lodged in his chest, but he stood still, expressionless. This is not a story about a man who is bulletproof. This is the magic of cinema. With a special tool filled with red liquid and remote-controlled mini explosives, the effects of blood and gunshot wounds are made to look real.
Not counting gang violence. Great.
Okay, if you didn't see it, or it doesn't make sense to you, what I'm getting at is this blood that has been prepared by your body for your brain to go in through those capillaries. It would be a death sentence to have that blood in chunks, and that's what it is here. It's coming out in chunks, like it's already coagulated. I would say that the guy's already dead over a day. Okay, because blood doesn't come out in chunks. It squirts out, possibly, arterial blood especially, but it doesn't do that. It doesn't come out in chunks. This is definitely some trickery going on, and this looks exactly like it does in the movies when they need somebody shot in the chest. Okay, and I hate to burst your bubble, because I had the same reaction. I wanted to kill somebody when I first saw it. I mean, Charlie Kirk, I don't really care for the guy as much, but nobody deserves to be shot like that. But now I'm believing he's still alive. Okay, now these Freemasons, Charlie, he's a Freemason. These guys have a habit of staging their own deaths. They do it all the time, constantly. And then they reappear as somebody else. Okay?
Okay. So, you've seen that. So, I'm not telling you guys what to believe, but just at least look at all the evidence, okay? And all this psyop is obviously working, okay? Because I had so many people from my audience write such nasty comments after I said, I think the death is faked. You would think that people who support him... I mean, I don't know why, unless you're a white nationalist or a white supremacist, why you would support him. But you'd think that people who support him would be actually happy to hear that he's not passed away. Like, it's like, do you want him to be dead? So yeah, I don't really understand Dom also said that he got trolled the hardest for anything that he's posted in a long time talking about this, including from people who were in the pro-Palestine movement, apparently. Who'd have thought that there'd be people in the pro-Palestine movement who like and respect Charlie Kirk? That's deeply, deeply worrying. But I guess it just goes to show that genocide should not be a partisan issue, okay? You're not a leftist if you're against genocide. Like, that's the fact that that even needs to be said is just, it's crazy. Like, everyone should be against genocide, but I guess if the right are going to be like, yeah, we're pro-genocide, then the right shouldn't exist. Like, if you're pro-genocide, you need to change those views. Okay, let's look at this other, and this is interesting as well, okay, because obviously you get a lot of people on the right who are pro-Second Amendment, and conspiracy realists and things like that. I mean, I've always been pro-Second Amendment. Dom is pro-Second Amendment. I wouldn't say that he's on the right. Maybe some people think he's on the right, maybe on some things. But one of my exes, who was like half Chicano, half indigenous, he was pro-Second Amendment, and his views were definitely pretty leaning left. And he was always pro-Second Amendment. So, like Greg Stoker said, if you go far enough left, you get your guns back. But a lot of people on the right are... who support Second Amendment and who are into guns and who know how to shoot guns and are very, very familiar with different types of guns, are obviously calling bullshit on this thing, and I'm really glad to see it. Okay, so let's hear from this guy.
On this episode of You Might Be a Dumb Motherfucker, this is my rifle. It takes two different tools to take it apart. It takes a Torx key and an Allen key. Now, if I take a shot and immediately disassemble this, I have to remove the bolt, remove the magazine, grab my Allen key, hit the two bolts on the bottom, put those away in the Allen key, grab my Torx key, remove the scope, put everything in the backpack, make sure I have everything, and make my way downtown. Okay, which is going to take a lot longer for him than it is for me, especially because his fine-tuned motor function, something as simple as grabbing an Allen key to a little bolt, is going to be extremely impaired due to a dump of adrenaline throughout his bloodstream. An extreme elevated heart rate is going to make these fine-tuned skills extremely difficult. I mean, just for him to think and analyze of what needs to be done to disassemble this rifle and get away would be difficult. And we're not even going to touch the topic of him assembling the rifle on top of the roof, which if you reassemble a rifle and you take a cold dead shot, it's not going to be 100% accurate, okay? Or the fact that he disassembled this after taking a shot, which the rifle's going to be hot and they found no gloves. There's just so many inconsistencies. It just makes zero sense. I mean, I'm still working on this, and I have taken this rifle apart 1,000 times. And now he has to put the pieces of the rifle into a backpack. And this is a gigantic backpack. Shout out Wolfpack, best backpacks on the fucking planet. Anyways, as you can see, this barrel, broken down, does not fit in this backpack. And this is a big boy, way bigger than the one that he was carrying. Okay, I put the rifle stock in here, and guess what? It doesn't fit. It sticks out. Now let's just say, for sake of argument, that he put these in his pant leg and he was walking. These are still so long broken down that he would not be able to walk straight. He wouldn't be able to bend his legs. Doesn't make fucking sense.
And did you guys see how at the end there, where he's running across the roof?
On this episode.
Excuse me. Oh.
I want to show you.
Okay, did you guys notice how where he's running across the roof, here I'll try and put it in again, where he's running across the roof, his shadow disappears. Like, why would the shadow disappear? So there's a lot of people also breaking down that it's could probably be AI. Yeah, there's I'll put a link in the description box to 2 videos that I think you guys should watch, where they break down possible use of AI, possible use of hologram technology as well, which obviously is a real thing. In another podcast, I can't remember, is it Kyle Kopinski, the Kyle Kopinski show? Yeah, so he broke it down and reacted to some footage about the whole thing, and then also Sami Obeid, who I think is a really hilarious comedian, him basically ripping apart the text messages, okay, which was done so brilliantly and with such amazing comedic humor. I'm not gonna show the clips here because yeah, it will just take too long. I don't want this video to go on forever and ever. You should watch those videos. But yeah. So why are they doing this? Obviously they know that people are waking up, people are realizing that we're all getting fucked, and people are going to come together to get organized. So they have to throw in these divisive agendas like QAnon and cause everything to become like a partisan issue. Same with the pandemic. People were getting organized. Like people were waking up and working together. People were becoming united across racial divides, across religious divides, across class divides even. And so then they had to throw in, COVID and try and weaponize the left, that all the woke stuff. Because woke didn't used to mean... the way that the conspiracy realists and the conspiracy camp and the truth community now use woke as a slur, we used to use woke to describe someone who was awake. And then obviously those ideas started to become more mainstream and they became weaponized by the establishment, and they used them to try and enforce all these, bioweapons, these, medical tyranny, and again with the digital IDs, the mark of the beast, push it, it played out like Book of Revelations, okay? And then they used that and pushed loads of nonsense in leftist spaces, to do with like transitioning children and things like that, to push everybody towards, from New Age to Christianity and things like that, so that they could then, bring in this end times and get everybody to just at war with each other, instead of everybody awakening and realizing the common enemy and taking out this oligarchy of satanic, pedophile, adrenochrome, blood-sucking vampires that are basically enslaving and abusing humanity and, raping the earth of her resources. It's one fight, guys. This is one fight. And it upsets me because I know that there were probably people at the United Kingdom March who were some of our common law people, some of our free man on the land people. Like, I'm sure that there were, okay? Because I could see where that was going, and I was seeing also how some of those movements were getting hijacked, okay? And they do it by seeding all these people into the movement. Okay, sorry, I'm just reading my notes, okay? Trying to divide working class to quell a revolution, and class wars, keeping the upper middle class and the working classes divided, okay? So, telling people that, like, the landlords are your enemy, or people who own several properties and are doing quite okay are your class enemy. Yes, okay, those people have been buffered by their privilege to not stand up against the control systems because they are working for empire, okay? Many have golden handcuffs. But what you got to understand is a lot of them know that they have more in common with humanity and the most destitute amongst humanity than they do with the ruling class, okay? Obviously there's obviously levels to it, okay? And some people might have split loyalties, but some people's missions are to infiltrate the system and dismantle it from higher up, rather than, like a grassroots thing, okay? So if you start trying to make some kind of revolutionary movement happen divided along class lines, it's going to result in more tyranny, okay? Because, you're going to have your people who work for the police, people who work in the military, people who work in intelligence and things like that going against your goals. So... yeah, like the hate, like this is why I keep on telling people to go research the Haitian Revolution, okay? Because the Haitian Revolution will show you how they moved from an enslavement model, and when they were enslaving people, okay, with the transatlantic slave trade and even before, slavery was not a race thing, okay? It became a race thing. It definitely became a race thing because when they had slaves in the United States who were... some of them were indigenous, some of them were Africans, or they were basically brought across the Atlantic Ocean from the the Cape of Africa, okay? And if you go back and trace this history all the way back to ancient Egypt, ancient Egyptian times and biblical times, they actually had, they basically came out of ancient Egypt, okay? They were enslaved in ancient Egypt and they originally came from the Levant, okay? Look up Deuteronomy 28, it maps all this history, okay? And then there were Irish slaves as well, okay? And this is all documented in A People's History for the United States by Howard Zinn. That's a really good book. People were basically joining forces. All the different slaves of all different colors were doing a lot of slave rebellions. There were a lot of slave rebellions where they were just killing their slave owners and just taking over the plantations. And so that's when the slave masters started bringing in a system of racism and an indentured servitude model to create what we now know as white privilege. And that is the history of the white race. There was no white race before that, okay? English people didn't see themselves the same as Irish people. People identified with their ancestry and their nationality and their the landmass that they came from or their bloodline, okay? It wasn't about whether they had melanin or not, okay? This homogenization of lighter skinned people as being like one homogenous white race is not, it's a much more recent invention, and it was used to quash slave rebellions, okay? It's been used as a tool of divide and conquer. So the Haitian Revolution was actually brought about by sex workers in the brothels, okay? And they were doing espionage, and some of them were actually very, very high level escorts as well, okay? And this is not unique to the Haitian Revolution, okay? Many wars and conflicts throughout history have utilized, the services of honey traps and, women, very, very beautiful and classy and elegant women who were able to infiltrate and do espionage. So yeah, like I'm just saying that, like, I'm not trying to be like, well, some people move in silence and sometimes you don't know what people are doing. It really, like, it is the case, okay? There are people who work for certain groups that are moving in silence, okay? So there's that. Yeah, so, one of the things that I focus on in this channel is unlocking hidden history, okay? Our ancient hidden history, particularly around the mystery school teachings, okay? And I haven't revealed too much about that work on this channel. In dribs and drabs, some of my older videos go into it more. But it's something that I definitely focus on a lot with my clients one-to-one, if that's right for them and if that's in keeping with the intention that we've set for the work that we're doing. A lot of the time, ancient history, hidden history will come to the fore. So when we're unlocking hidden history, what you have to understand is our shared history as a human family, which is very, very important to understand if we ever want to achieve collective liberation, is Black history. Okay, our most ancient history of the human race and how we came here is Black history, because all of our ancestors were Black. Every single one of us. Doesn't matter what your skin tone is now, your most ancient ancestors were Black, okay? So all of this racism towards melanated people is literally just self-hatred towards your own ancestors. And obviously there's a lot of other things going on as well. It's also like projection and, feeling like, projection, guilt, worrying that the people that you and your country or your people have harmed through colonialism and imperialistic wars and stuff are going to want revenge. And that's valid because, unless people are given the right tools for healing, it's something that could happen. I don't think it's likely to happen, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility. But I think also deep down it comes down to a very real fear and knowing that it's recessive genetics, basically. It's recessive genetics that are the global minority and might not survive a lot of interbreeding. Probably in the future, we're all going to be brown again, okay? We might not see as much of the lighter skin alleles and the lighter skin variations that we have now in Europe, especially with all these mass migrations. Personally, I don't have a feeling about that. I just feel like we're all people, and like, you know, yeah, it's cool if somebody has like green eyes and blue eyes and blonde hair. It's beautiful. Like, I think, you know, all the different colors of the human race are beautiful. The word human literally means colors of the earth, okay? Because we literally come from the earth. And we'll return to the earth. So we're all the different hues of the earth. But it could, okay? It obviously was a genetic adaptation that had a certain survival benefit. And so it could just pop up somewhere else, okay? We know that like black women can give birth to white children, okay? Albinism is a phenomenon that has been observed, and that's probably where it even comes from in the first place. So yeah, okay, just looking at my notes, I've said a lot of these things already, so yeah, so obviously, yeah, in the UK, I would say it's definitely paranoia around our history of colonization, not just our history of colonization, but our present, okay? Obviously, we're still very much participating in what's happening in the Middle East, and we have been participating in fucking with that region, you know, the whole war on terror and everything. And it's similar with the United States, okay, because it is literally a country created by illegals, okay? The way that the country was founded was illegal. So them complaining about illegals is just, what's the phrase? The phrase pots, something about pots, kettles, and glass houses. So yeah, founded on genocide, built by slavery. No wonder they're so paranoid, okay? So yeah, I don't really know what the solution is. I don't think it's going to be solved in this video. I think we need to continue to have ongoing conversations about it. Yeah, I mean, I do feel sad. I do feel sad for some of the people, these white supremacists, because they actually seem genuinely afraid that they're going to be unalived by all these brown and black people, and that must be such a sad way to live. So I watched a documentary by Dia Khan. I'm going to put that in the description box as well. You guys should watch it, okay? Dia Khan she's a British Muslim filmmaker, documentary maker, and she actually went and interviewed neo-Nazis in the United States, and this was during the second civil rights movement, during like when BLM started coming to the fore. Obviously, I know there's major issues with BLM as an organization, but she went and infiltrated the neo-Nazi groups and actually was like in their houses with them and interviewing them for this documentary. And she was like so nice to them, and I think they like, watch it, guys, okay? I think what she did is so fucking dangerous. And she's also talked about in interviews about how it actually was dangerous and they actually got into some very hairy situations, but most of them were actually willing to talk to her, and they actually wanted to be heard, and they wanted to be heard out. And yeah, it was interesting listening to their perspective, because they genuinely do feel like people are trying to wipe them out. A lot of them, after meeting her and after talking with her, completely changed their views and now speak against that whole movement, and help, rescue young vulnerable kids who are going to get funneled into that, or who are vulnerable, because obviously these groups do go around a lot of working class white areas where people are struggling and recruit. Yeah, it was a powerful documentary. I reckon you guys should watch it, okay? So obviously fascism is not just a white people problem. India is seeing major issues with fascism right now, okay? India, over the last few years, reached stage 7 of the 7 stages of genocide. I would say India is probably like where fascism began, okay? Because obviously we know Hinduism is one of the oldest religions in the world. it is literally probably where like one of the oldest versions of supremacy, class. It's kind of class and bloodline supremacy. Okay, it's not genetic though. Okay, because they have done genetic studies to look into the Hindu caste system and see if there's any genetic difference between Brahmins and Dalits. Okay, Brahmins being the highest caste and Dalits being the lowest caste, and they found that genetically they actually all have the same admixture. Yeah, and you know, if you guys have been with me for a while, you know I modeled in India. The caste system was something that made me deeply ashamed of my ancestry. My ancestors were Hindu Brahmins before they converted to Islam on one side and Christianity on the other. And yeah, my dad's always been really proud of telling me that story. They gave up all their wealth in order to do so. And just literally were like, fuck this. We don't want to have anything to do with this. This is wrong. So, yeah, like, obviously, I know that Hinduism has a lot of beautiful teachings and a lot of beautiful qualities. And every time I talk about the caste system, I do get some of my Hindu followers correcting me on some things. And so I understand that there are misinterpretations, but the caste system exists in practice, okay? And India is seeing problems with Hindutva gangs who are going around different tribal regions in India where there's religious minorities, particularly Muslims, and committing atrocities against these minorities, okay? And I've seen, like, you know, just some of the Bollywood films that have been coming out over the last year. It's just so much anti-Muslim propaganda. They've just got, like, they have all these basically showing all these different, like, terrorist training camps in Pakistan, and just literally brainwashing the masses. And this is obviously part of their whole agenda. They obviously, they need Pakistan and India to be at war with each other, because obviously if Pakistan, India and Bangladesh and Kashmir could be united, not necessarily as one united nation, but could be, you know, allies with each other, that could obviously pose a huge threat to US and British hegemony. Not that, you know, obviously I understand everything is controlled by the deep state, okay? I get that. And a lot of people in government in these countries are complicit in also spreading these lies. Obviously, since Modi came in, India's seen massive issues with fascism. So, you know, for all my Indian friends who are in India and having to fight the fascism that they're seeing in their country, I send you a lot of support for in doing so. I have quite a lot of friends who are from India who are Hindu and who say themselves that they're scared of the Hindutva, you know, Hindu nationalists who are trying to make India a Hindu country when India was actually always supposed to be secular. Yeah, so I do think it's important that people start getting involved with local government, okay, because the people are, it's your consent to be governed that gives government its legitimacy, okay? Governments are actually corporations, so people really need to understand these common law principles. Obviously in the UK it's a lot based on Magna Carta. In the US it's based on the Constitution, okay? Different countries will have their own you know, their own ways of dealing with this, okay? So you guys are going to have to forge your own ways of being. And I do think that getting involved with local government and holding your local government to account, maybe even getting involved in local government. I know this is a really weird thing for me to say as somebody who's an anarchist. I'm also a realist, okay? And we need people who are awake. We need people whose hearts are in the right place. We need people who are submitted to God and to mission to have systemic power and influence over how our futures are going to look. So yeah, start stepping into those roles, guys. But yeah, also pulling away from the constant hustle, the constant grind, just to feel your emotions, feel the grief. You know, if it's all getting a little bit too much for you, then, you know, just take some time to just feel the earth underneath your feet, and make sure you're making time for self-care, for wellness, for community, taking care of your community. Start connecting with people in your community and getting organized as well. That's all going to be really, really important going forward. Okay, so I hope that helps, guys. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what you episode 17 is going to be on. I was going to actually split this up into two episodes, what we talked about today, but I ended up doing it as one. So I'll just wait until the inspiration strikes. I'm going to be doing some travel next week, so it might be a little bit longer until I get the next episode out. So I hope you bear with me, and I hope you're all doing really well, guys. I know these energies are really intense at the moment, so I'm sending you all so much grace, so many prayers. And yes, just an apology for those of you who, I know some people tried to sign up for the Lilith webinar at the last minute, people who were needing some energetic support, and unfortunately you found that it was cancelled. Okay, I did have to cancel it last minute because with everything popping off, the fields were just not safe to be doing that particular clearing. Okay, so I will be re-announcing it at a later stage when things have calmed down. I also need to do some of my own healing around that issue because I was getting really, really demonically attacked just in the run-up to it, and I couldn't in good conscience do that clearing for you guys, because if I was getting that much backlash for it, for sure, like, there was a very high chance that you guys might also suffer demonic backlash for that clearing, or might not even be ready for it. So I'm going to be focusing on doing my own healing around Lilith and the Lilu collective and these kind of negative entities, you know, which I talked about in previous episodes. And I'll bring out some free content on here talking about that process. And then when I feel like things have stabilized, then we can do that clearing again. But I will be coming out with some more group offerings that will be more focused around what you guys are actually needing in the moment, rather than around a specific subject. It will take me at least a few weeks, maybe even a month or two, to set that up. So just be patient with me, guys. There's lots of, you know, exciting things to come. So thanks for your support as always. If you can smash that like button, that really helps me out as well, and share this with somebody who you feel like could be helped by this transmission. I'd really appreciate that, and I'm sure they would too. Okay, I'm going to stop rabbiting on. I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, peace out, one love.